Hello, Ambius. It's April 2024, and this month we're going to continue on with our discussion on plant levels and kind of get more into the grit of what plant levels are all about and how exactly do we determine if a plant is a level 1, a level 3, a level 5, and so on. And there are some things that we can kind of go by, some tips and tricks to figure out what exactly is this plant and how do we figure out what level it might be. So we're going to look at a number of different things. The first thing is the foliage, the leaves on the plant. This is the main display. When people see our plants, the main thing they're looking at is the leaves. That's what they're judging the plants by. And with the leaves, the first thing we'll look at is the quality of those leaves. So some things that we could look for. If you have a level 1 plant, the leaves are basically going to be perfect. They're impeccable. There's nothing wrong with them. No tipping, no pests. Everything is fine with the leaves. And then as the plant begins to acclimate into the account, you'll start to, the leaves will still look really good, but you'll start to see little minor things on them, and they'll start kind of not looking quite as perfect as they once did. But they're starting to get used to those indoor conditions. And so those type of things are going to appear, and that's when over time we start to get into a level 3 plant. We see more things like this where the leaves may be distorted, or we might start getting things like tipping and spotting. For example, from afar, this Janet Craig doesn't look too bad, but when you look at the leaves close up, you can see that there's a lot of spotting going on. And when you're close to the plant, you see that that's no longer a good-looking plant. That's a plant that should be replaced. If we just see a little of it, then we're probably more at a 2 or a 3, but if we see more of this, we could have a level 4 or even a level 5 plant. You can see that these Sansevieria were cut and they look really bad, and this is really unsightly. And if it's unsightly, it's a level 5 plant. We can also get unwanted things on the leaves. This could include things like dust as well as pests. And these things detract from the visual appearance of the plants, and the quality of the leaves goes down. Next up, let's look at the number of leaves, the quantity of leaves on a plant. Over time, indoors, you're going to lose leaves on a plant, but if the plant is really full, like at a level 1, pretty much all you're going to see is the leaves on a plant for the most part. But over time, that the number of leaves starts to decrease typically. And just some rules of thumb on plant levels: if most of what you're seeing is leaves on the plant, then you're somewhere between a 1 and a 3. But if you can see through the plant, where most of what you're seeing is like the wall behind it, then I would say at that point you're at a level 4 or a level 5. Also, if you have plants that have vines or stems, like Aglaonema, for example, if most of what you're seeing is the stems and not as many leaves, like right here, that's an indication that you're at probably a level 4 or level 5, and that plant needs to be replaced because it's no longer looking good. Some other things we can look at is like the plant proportions. So are the proportions of the plant good? Sometimes over time, when you lose a lot of leaves, you end up with really long stems, or the plant is stretched out, and that plant is no longer proportionate. So when you lose your proportions, you're no longer looking good in that regard. You're at a level 4 or 5 at that point. Also related is symmetry. So we're not looking for the plant to be perfectly symmetrical, but if you cut the plant in half, how good does one side look to the other? And you can see in these pictures here that the symmetry is not really there anymore. And these would be easily level 4 or level 5 plants because of that. Also, the number of plants per pot. If, for example, you had a Dracaena and it was supposed to have 4 canes and there's only 3 left, then that knocks it down a few levels. And if you only have 2 of 4 canes at that point, you're easily at a level 4 or level 5. And let's also not forget things like the decorative container and the decorative mulch. So decorative mulch should cover up all of the grow pods. So if you can see the grow pods, you know, this is an easy fix, but that's where it does knock it down at least one level. Also with the decorative container, if the decorative container doesn't look good, if there's dust on it, things like that, that easily knocks it down one level. And just other things from an aesthetic standpoint. So you can see here, these stems that are brown in color were tied up with green tie. So it really stands out. To blend that in, you'd want to use a tie that blends in better with that. So in summary, there's quite a few different things we can look at with the plant as well as the overall display to determine what level the plant display is at. In May, we're going to talk about what can you do about each of these different factors for the levels. What can you do to bump it up a level? And these are things that we're doing all the time. So this will be a good reinforcement training to the things that you're already doing to keeping those plants look as good as possible. We'll see you in May. Thanks.